Welcome back to The Outright Effect, a podcast in which unique perspectives challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. We're two ambitious women who talk about how we like to stretch our creativity and work on self-growth to become better people. I'm Tempsy.
And I'm Shelly. And today we are going to be talking about things we're hoping for 2021 in regards to goals, whether it be podcast related, personal, or career. So I'm going to start off by talking about a few things that I've had in mind. As far as personal, I think I, want to give myself more time to continue to relax. So if you listen to our last episode, we kind of talked about some stuff going on with the pandemic. And I mentioned that, I have been taking this opportunity to live a more quiet lifestyle, I guess. I was definitely somebody, last year and years prior who packed every single day, doing stuff after work, doing stuff like all day long on the weekends. I didn't really take the time to veg out, I guess, really. That was a new concept for me in March of 2020. So I want to take that into consideration going into 2021. Hopefully things will start to get a little bit better, like clear up and we're able to go out. But I want to remind myself that just because things are open doesn't mean that I need to go out and do everything.
Right.
Like I can space it out. I don't have to fill every single weekend with something. Days at home, cleaning up, organizing, whatever, like decluttering, whatever the case might be, is also okay. I don't need to be like going out to see the latest new whatever that's opening up, or like going to see, I didn't go to a lot of movies, but
Right.
I don't have to like, if things coming out, I need to go to it. I'm totally fine with waiting until the upcoming weeks to go and check those things out as well. And I think, one thing that I want to focus on more, in conjunction with that is in sort of like a health and wellness sort of perspective. So we had also talked about health and wellness on like episodes ago, months ago. And I do want to make a better habit of like cooking at home, exercising more often and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's what I would or should rather be, instead spending my time doing versus going out and about. So I know like right now, the pandemic's still around. There's not as much stuff to do. And I would say though, I've been more so like supporting small business restaurants rather than cooking, which is funny because like I'm at home a lot more anyway. So why am I just not cooking? But, that's kind of what we've been doing. Career-wise, I'm still in a corporate environment, and I think at the end of the day, I do want to move to something that is more YouTube or social media involved. I want to get more traction on that, think about posting more regular content, and work on things that are more creative, whether that be like editing styles or topics that I talk about and stuff like that. If, I continue to be in the corporate environment, I do want to work on my leadership skills. I've actually been working with a leadership coach we had on as a guest a few episodes ago. Her name is Carol. Check that out if you're interested in building your leadership skills. But I also want to be a more effective communicator in the workplace as well, because even, if I were to go off on my own and, do YouTube full time or something like that. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to be able to communicate effectively and clearly, because that's really what that is, right? I'm filming videos and talking.
Right.
So I feel like that makes a lot of sense. But
yes.
Also because, if any collaborations or, if I end up working with brands, I definitely want to make sure that we're like all on the same page and feeling good about, whatever we're working on. And at the end of the day, you have to communicate effectively in order to make sure that you all are thinking the same thing and agreeing with each other.
And on the same page.
And on the same page. But, in terms of where you all, our listeners, hear us the most is on this podcast. And, I think that we have definitely been thinking a little bit more about the kind of content we've been recording and what direction we want to go in. So we are looking forward to bringing on more guests, talking more about I don't know, professional development. I don't know what to call it. Stuff like that, entrepreneurship, being creative. So that's where, I'm hoping that we're able to incorporate more of those types of topics on our podcast. But, we also want to hear from you guys too, right? It's not only about us and what we want to talk about, but we want to include you all into the conversation. So if there are any topics that you're wondering about or would like us to talk about, let us know. You can, message us on social media or send us an email, anything like that. We are really interested in hearing from what all of you guys are interested in.
Absolutely. I love
Mhm.
that. Those are some great
Yeah,
goals.
thanks. What about you, Tempsy? Is there anything you have in mind for
I do, but
2020?
I have a few comments about yours. So
Oh, yeah.
I love that you're learning to veg out. And I have a story like recently, because everybody knows we just moved to Las Vegas. We have been going at 150 miles an hour 100% of the time, like between
Mhm.
work and setting up the house and getting everything situated. And my husband has been like jamming, and we both have. But this weekend, Friday, my husband started to kind of like not feel well, and there wasn't anything specific. He was just mentally and emotionally exhausted, and it's not COVID. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But he's just not like after a while going that hard for so long, it takes a toll on you. So yesterday we took a full day of just vegging out and watching movies. We haven't had a TV in a month and a half, and it finally got installed. That's one of the things he was working on. And we just vegged out all day, and it was beautiful, and it was so relaxing, and we got to talking, and my son, like, he never gets to watch that much TV, and I wouldn't recommend it on a regular basis, and we won't do it on a regular basis. But one time, every other month or something, I think is really healthy. And it just felt really great to not have anything to do, just say, you know what, if we need to do it, we'll get to it another day or tomorrow. And what also came out of that was this morning when I woke up, I felt groggy because kind of when you lay around and you kind of sleep a lot or whatever, I feel groggy after that. And this morning I was
Mhm.
like, we took a beautiful day, kind of like quote unquote off, and it was very healing for me personally, and I think it was healing for him as well. Um, I knew that this morning I was going to feel a little bit groggy and extra tired, and like, let's do it all over again. So so I was like, I can't do that. I need to like get back into the rhythm of things and make sure that that doesn't, because that could end up becoming your norm if you let it take over.
Right. Yeah.
So I made a point to like get back into my routine. And so I've had a very productive day today and will continue having that. But I think having that time, even if it's not a whole day, but if you have a normal routine at night like we do, we eat at a certain time, we, play with, we interact as a family without the TV after dinner, um, no TV during dinner. Like we have a specific schedule at night. And so if one or two nights out of the week, you just want to turn on the TV for a while, like that's okay. I just want to give people permission, and even you, Shelly, I give you my permission
Oh my
to
gosh.
veg out. So I think that's really great that that's a goal of yours, because some people just push themselves. And even if you're like sitting on Instagram and you're scrolling, and you can have emotions around that, and feel that you're not doing enough because you're seeing other people's highlight reels, it's okay to just pop on some mindless TV and let yourself go for an hour or two. Like, don't worry. I think that's a good goal for you, especially for you.
Oh my God.
Just because
Yeah.
you put a lot on your plate. But
It's a bad habit.
but it also has brought you to where you are today. So it's not like,
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not
No,
like
I
it's a
mean,
bad
it
thing.
was not all for waste, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. What I also loved about what you said is in terms of your career, like what you're looking to accomplish, whether it be on the YouTube side or your social medias or in the corporate side, you're also like kind of intertwining the two. The things that you're focusing on developing and in terms of leadership can also be applied. Not only leadership, but effective communication can also be applied to what you're doing on both sides. So I love that.
Hmm.
That's such a great idea. And for me personally, my goal is to work on balancing my priorities a little bit more. I think I probably said this last year too, but what I'm doing differently this year is I've also signed up with Carol to have her as my coach. And I'm looking forward to, and it was just recently, so we haven't had enough time together, but I've already seen what coaching can do in one session. It's just been
Yeah.
it totally turned my energy around. The things that we were talking about. And so I'm really excited for that. I'm excited to kind of narrow down my current purpose as a mom, you know, in the different areas of my life and my career and things like that, and find balance without being too hard on myself. So I don't know. I feel like that is something that's really hard to do, and it's something I've always been striving for. But now I'm hoping that taking this different approach around how I'm going to get there will hopefully help. And that's something that I encourage anybody to do, is that if there's been something you've been wanting to do for some time, every year you make it your goal, or every month you make it your goal and you don't get to it, maybe you try something different. And so that's what I'm trying to do now, is the things that I probably talked about last year when it came to purpose or, you know, goals for the new year, they're probably very similar. And so I'm just looking forward to narrowing those things down this year, getting them down on paper, and being able to look back at them when I'm struggling, when I'm feeling unmotivated or uninspired, like being able to just have that thing that I can go to and say, wait, why am I feeling this way? What can I do to get out of my funk? Or
Hmm.
do I need rest? Is something in my body telling me that I need to stop pushing so hard and rest? So I'm
Right.
just really looking forward to that. But from a career standpoint, I think that very similarly to you, if you kind of work out those things in your personal life and how you're kind of growing and developing in your personal life, they can also apply to what you're doing professionally. So I think I'm going to focus on the career, the coaching side of things, get everything, you know, hopefully get everything kind of narrowed down for my journey, my short-term journey right now, that will eventually lead into, you know, my bigger goals, get those nailed down now and kind of work towards those. And then that will also support the professional side of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And one thing that you just said that, you know, triggering is not the right word to
That
use,
resonated
but
with you?
yeah, resonated. That's a better one. It is the thing about, thinking about if you need rest, because I think that it's so funny because I was having this like thought or feeling or something the other day where, that actually came to mind. Like, I think I need a vacation or something, like I think I actually like not just need to like not do anything, and seriously taking it as a time to like not do anything, because in some other thoughts that I have is like, oh yeah, I should take a week off from work so I could work on YouTube.
Right,
Like, that's not actually taking time off, right?
right,
I do know that, that adds and takes some additional time. And I think one thing that like, um, I wouldn't say that I actually struggle with, but like a recurring theme that I notice is a lot of people out there who are on the YouTube space don't actually take a lot of time off. I guess, they do actually like fill their days, they become very busy, especially for people who are in the same situation as myself, where YouTube technically is more of like a hobby. I don't get any income from doing that currently. And I think for people who are working to build that, they do have full-time jobs somewhere else,
right,
and so, it almost is like you have like a full-time and a part-time job or two full-time jobs. And, realistically, like, how sustainable is that? I mean, I do understand that a lot of, very successful people out there are super ambitious and just pack their days, but I mean, and it may serve them well in the short term, but like, what does that look like for somebody in the long term?
right,
And I'm not somebody who wants to, I'm not in a place where I'm thinking, I just want to jam it out, because I know that if I'm thinking that way, then it's not going to be a sustainable long-term thing that I'm going to want to keep on doing. I'm just going to associate all these negative things with it, right? Like,
right,
oh, it's so draining, it's so it like burns me out. Like, why would I be trying to work towards that as being a career with those things like tied to it? Like, it seems like negative baggage that I would just be stringing along. So,
right,
in that sense, like, I know a lot of people out there who like, film a video before they go to their full-time job, or like, right when they come home. And that's when I'm like, do I really need to? I mean, I do ask like, I feel like I try to build in other time on the weekend when I don't have anything else scheduled to do that. And I will limit myself during the week how much I'm actually working on some of those things. Now, on the flip side, I do tend to need reminders to actually edit the video, but I would not recommend anyone try to burn themselves out, really, is what I'm trying to say, you know?
Right. And I noticed that you're also taking a different approach to Vlogmas.
Yeah, so I know, like, I think it was 2 years ago when I did Vlogmas. I literally did it every single day. Some things that I learned from that was to not hold myself to perfection in editing because it used to take me a super, super, super long time to edit one video, like days, right? I mean, at that point, I was also still trying to learn how to edit videos. So that's, one thing in itself. But when I was cranking out one video every single day for 25 days straight, like 2 years ago in December, I really couldn't be like taking extra time on that. I had to be like, make it quick. Who cares? Nobody's going to stare at that. It's not a big
Right.
deal.
So it was a
On
good
from it.
exercise.
Yeah, it was a good exercise, but I was just like literally every day I was like, what do I even talk about? Like I was kind of having, those kinds of issues. And I think, there is I think a balance that needs to happen as well as far as like forcing oneself to be creative. Then, the content seems like, did you really want to make this video? When you're
Yeah,
forcing yourself, like I think people can tell, right? I think it
sure.
comes off like she doesn't really seem that interested in talking about this. Like, right?
Because people feed off
And
your energy, right?
Right. People feed off energy, but at the same time too, I would say like for those people out there who are just watching the videos and not actually like making the videos, I mean, be a little bit considerate and like nice about those kinds of situations too, because someone could honestly just be tired, but knowing that like, hey, I really wanted to talk about this and I have no other time to
Right.
get to it, like that could also be some of the reasons why videos turn out the way that they do. I think, I haven't experienced personally, but I have seen, a lot of criticism on the YouTube space because you can, because you're feeding off of somebody else's energy, sometimes people like question, oh, something happened, right? Like
Right.
it doesn't have to be that way. Someone could literally just be busy and they're like, oh my gosh, I also really want to get this video out right now too. And this is the only time I have to do it, but I'm tired. I actually noticed that last night when I was filming. I was like, so my camera actually overheated, so I had to stop anyway. And so I picked up on it today, but after I turned the camera off because it was too hot, I was like, whoa, I think I sounded super monotone and like I was bored, which was, not the case. It was like 9 o'clock at night that I was doing this
Right.
after having like a full Saturday. So, just keep in mind, I know I've also seen a lot of, people I've followed a long time on YouTube saying like, this is midnight and I'm filming this and they're like drinking a coffee, that late at night just so that they can make it through the video. Like personally, I would not do that. Like I would not stay up so late. I think I do believe that there's other things involved. Like they want their lighting a certain way. And the only way they can get that is if they only have their actual studio lights on and everything is dark outside. Like, I
Oh.
I am just not a person who could do that though.
Or maybe they're a
Like
night owl. You never
yeah, or
know.
maybe they're a night owl and during the day they're resting and at night is when they're the most productive. So, there are just a lot of different factors and I don't think anyone should be like, I don't know, like I personally don't read into things that much. I'm just kind of like whatever's going on in the video, it is what it is and I'm not
Right.
trying to pick it apart. And so I would just like encourage other people to watch in that kind of way as well and not be too critical because I think that's where like, hater comments come in and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's not necessary, it really isn't. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can carry that mindset through as I am like working on growing my channel. And hopefully, if I do happen to experience those kinds of negative comments, that I continue to just be like, shrugs. I
Yeah.
have gotten some negative comments before. Like I think, I've gotten comments where people are like, you talk too much. And I'm like, I'm
Ew.
doing a review. I don't understand. Like, why are you watching this then? I don't get it. You're watching the wrong video. But
That's funny.
yeah, so I where there are more viewers, there's just, statistically a higher chance of getting comments like that.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of like whatever, but
I mean, I think in terms of comments, and I don't have a YouTube channel, so I don't know how it feels to get negative comments, but I would hope that if I did get negative comments for anything, that I would take that, evaluate it, say to myself, okay, that really true? Like you just did, right? Like, well, this is a review, so I got to talk. It's just how it is.
Mhm.
Or and then if that's not the case, like if it's not something I really need to take into my next video, like it's not something I need to accept as valuable feedback because it's not in the realm of what I do, then hopefully I wouldn't emotionally invest in that comment because that can be toxic, right? We've seen it
Right.
time and time again where people just they start getting into arguments and it's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And so, I'll also share an example of like good feedback that I got from somebody. They had mentioned that some of the music I overlaid in one of my videos was a little bit too loud, so they had a hard time listening to, like, hearing me talk in that video.
Uh-huh.
And they said, otherwise I really like watching your videos though. And I was like, that's good for me to know because
Yeah,
like I want you to be able, obviously this is a video that where I'm talking, so I would want you to be able to hear what I'm talking about. That's the whole point of me sharing information. And so
exactly.
the next video I turned it down a little bit more, so I was easier to hear. So that, I think is valid feedback, right? Or like,
Right.
hey, just, there's something going on in the background that I heard, like just point, like sharing it, or like, it was really dark, I couldn't see anything, like that kind of stuff I think is fine to mention as feedback. So someone can be like, oh, shoot, yeah, I had that light on over here instead of over there or whatever, right? Like, I
Right.
think
I
like
think
that makes sense.
constructive feedback is
Right,
always helpful. But if you're just
right, right.
bashing on someone for no reason and hiding behind a keyboard, it can be very toxic. And I I do wish people would just have some common courtesy and just support one another rather than beating each other down.
Put someone down. Yeah.
Exactly. But another goal of mine, kind of very similar to yours, I'm always trying to stay in touch with my health. And as most folks know, I had a very strict diet. I was like keto pescatarian, where I had very little options in terms of what to eat. And I don't know, I felt good at first, but I started to feel after a long time, I started to feel groggy because when you can't eat that, I couldn't even eat carrots very often, because they have
Mhm.
a high number of carbs. So I don't know if you ever felt this way, but I don't think I ever truly knew what people meant when they said, listen to your body.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get it. Like if your elbow hurts, maybe you should go to the doctor or
Rest
stretch it
it or
out.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Right, right, right.
But I didn't really understand truly what that meant until I started tracking. I know sounds kind of weird, but I started tracking my ovulation. And
Mhm.
I realized that when I was ovulating, obviously we want to try to have another kid. So when I was tracking my ovulation, when I realized when I was ovulating, I was really tired and exhausted, like severely tired and exhausted, to the point where I was having a really, like, if it happened during work, I was having a really hard time working. And I'm really glad I did that because I would not have known that about myself unless
Mhm.
I started tracking my cycle. I actually get more tired and exhausted than when I actually get my period, which makes no sense to me. But I was like, oh, okay, well, now that I know that about myself, I can maybe plan around it or put some things into place that will, get my energy up, or I'll rest a little bit more, sleep longer at night, like whatever the case might be. And so, in that line of thought, I started thinking, well, maybe this diet isn't the best thing for me. I did lose quite a bit of weight from it, but I don't think it's sustainable. At the end of the day, like you could have all the discipline in the world, but if you're feeling crappy because you're not eating enough vegetables or enough variety of food, then maybe it's just not the right thing for you. And the fact
Yeah.
that I don't eat meat, it really limited my options. So what I decided to do was start to integrate things like berries because I'm keto, you're not supposed to eat fruit. So I integrated berries into my breakfast, like I guess it helps with digestion before you get into
Mm.
like your day to eat some
Mhm.
berries. So I will drink a little bit of coffee and eat some berries. And then mixed into my husband started making breakfast for me, and he'll mix in like cayenne pepper into my egg mixture. Like he makes egg with avocado, and he'll add things, spices to that that help with your health, whether it be digestion or overall like maybe blood flow or inflammation. He'll add turmeric and he'll add all these different things so that we're getting what we need from the food that we're eating. And
Mhm.
what I've seen is because I was very strict with the keto diet, I started to notice that when I was eating now, I'm so much more aware of carbs,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you have to
So,
focus on that so much.
exactly. So, what I'll do is if I happen to make something with carbs, I'll just have a really small portion of it. And that's really all I need. And it
Yeah.
really fills me up because I know what I like. I just have this very different perspective now of what a privilege it is maybe to eat carbs for somebody who has my body type. I don't know. So I treat it more as a privilege rather than a right now, I guess. And
Mhm.
I'm just a little bit more strict about what I eat and in what quantities. And so now I don't crave as much. I don't crave like bigger meals. It's just much more reasonable. And I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm eating to live rather than living to eat, which
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
whole family is, we live to eat. That's just like in our blood. And it is. I really
It's in
believe
your genes.
it's in our genes, like our DNA. So the fact that I might, I think doing keto was a good exercise and it kind of led me to this point. And hopefully I can, kind of keep it up. But what I do want to integrate more of and what I've gotten away from is exercising because since moving to Las Vegas, for some reason, I just can't wake up as early. And I think it's just because right now it's cold. And so as soon as I
Mm.
take my blanket off, I'm like, nope, I put it right back on. And I'm just like, it's much more cozier to stay right here and just rest my eyes. And then I just fall asleep for another hour. And I just don't, I'm having a really hard time waking up early enough to go before my son wakes up. Because once my son wakes up, I got to cook breakfast. I got to, like, I got to take care of him before we can even go outside. And then by that time, I got to get ready for actual work, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I can, start to adjust without killing myself, like in a way where I'm not getting enough sleep. That's something I truly want to avoid. I listened to one of Joe Rogan's podcasts where he had a neuroscientist on about, it was all around sleep. And
Mm.
it just blew my mind the importance of getting a good night's sleep, at least 7 hours. And so now I make sure I don't get any less than 7 hours. It can lead to so many tough things as you're continuing to age, so I it can be very harmful if you don't get enough sleep. So I don't want to reduce how much I'm sleeping, but I would like to go to bed earlier so I can wake up earlier and actually get exercise in.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting when you were talking about like listening to your body? So I guess like not only with food, but what happened to me recently was one day, and you know, at the time I didn't know why, but one day like my shoulder was hurting. And that to me, that's so weird because I never have like plus I was also like, is it because I'm getting old? But I never had stuff like that happen to me before where something was like hurting. You know, I don't have any injuries, you know, like from sports or like tripping or, you know, because like sprained ankle or like broken. I've never broken anything, you know.
Right.
So I was like a little bit confused as to like, why is my shoulder hurting? But what it came down to. So it was hurting for like a couple of days. It made my workout a lot more difficult because I had a hard time like raising like my arm over my head or even like to put something in the microwave over the stove. I was like I don't know if you've ever seen like those T-Rex like jokes where like their arms are super short. Like that's how I felt. I was like on my toes, like shoving the plate in the microwave, like because I
Right.
couldn't raise my arm that much. And so actually I had a bowl, so I needed two hands. But so it went away after a few days and then it came back. And I was like, what is going on here? Like there's got to be something that I'm doing. And what I believe it is, I mean, there's no real way to tell, but what I believe it is the position of my keyboard when I'm working from home. I've been sitting so far back, so I'm like stretching my arms out to reach my keyboard a little bit, like just how I'm sitting. So
Right.
I think it kind of like set my shoulder in a weird way where it was so forward. So now I remind myself to like roll my shoulders back a little bit and like sit a little bit closer to where my keyboard is, just like an inch or something like that actually made a difference, you know? And so my shoulder isn't like in this position for hours, which then makes it hurt. So, you know, that's another way I think like physically, you know, to just
Yeah.
pay attention to like what you're doing and like how are you sitting and like all that kind of stuff because that's how like all these other things in like my body started to do like weird stuff is because honestly like working from home I move way less like you know the water cooler whatever at work's like down the hallway whereas like
Right.
I'm on the dining table so the kitchen is right there.
Yep.
So like getting up and just kind of like moving your body around, I think, you know, is something that I've become more aware of is like like a necessity because I am like making myself a lot more like cramped and, you know,
Yeah,
stiff
absolutely.
sitting. So yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of days because I work from home now 100% of the time. There were a couple of days, it was like 3 days in a row, I didn't even go outside. And I was
Isn't that
like,
weird?
yeah, it was like, oh gosh, I gotta go outside today. And I started taking some vitamin D just because I just don't go outside. You know, you never know when that could start affecting you.
Right, right.
So, and luckily, like going upstairs and downstairs, I try to typically like breakfast and lunch, my husband will bring up for me so that I can eat, or I'll eat lunch with them. So I'll go downstairs. But if I don't, then I got to make sure I get up and move. Otherwise, I'm
Hmm.
just sitting at this desk. And they say like sitting is the new smoking or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So you just got to make sure you're moving if you're working from home. But more movement in all, like as a whole, is just much more important these days. So
Yeah.
I gotta get something going in that sense. I'm thinking about getting like a stationary bike so that
Hmm.
if there's like a lot of reading I need to do, because there are days where my job is like more reading heavy,
Hmm.
maybe I can just jump on a stationary bike while I'm like reading. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, two birds, one stone, right?
Yeah,
Why not?
absolutely. But also like I can still take a lunch. So if my husband needs a break, then I'll just take my kid outside and we'll walk around for a little while. Like those are things that I need to remind myself of. You don't have to work through lunch, or if you have lunch with your family, that's only like half the time. Go outside for a walk after, you know.
Right.
And my
Uh,
my team and my boss are totally like, yeah,
on board.
whatever you need to do. So it's
Yeah,
encouraged.
that's great.
Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons why we started this podcast, and if you heard our first episode, we did talk about purpose a lot, where Tempsey and I had gone to a seminar and saw a lot of people who already like clearly knew what their purpose was. And, you know, in an upcoming episode, we both want to touch on this topic again because it's been a little over a year now. And I think that while we may not be like super duper clear on what our purpose is, I mean, I can only speak for myself really, right? But I think, you know, some of the things may have changed for us personally. And although, like, for myself, I feel like purpose can change throughout your life, right? And I think that's something that we've talked about before as well. But I think it would be great for us to kind of, you know, come back to this and sort of talk through how we're feeling about it now.
Yeah, 100%. I'm constantly thinking about this, and I agree with you 100% that purpose can change over time. My purpose that I decide, like if I were able to write down my purpose right now, which I'm not still, but I have a better idea, more than I did last year. If I were able to write it down right now, I would hope actually that in 5 years it would be a little bit different,
Yeah.
like because things change, you grow as a person, you grow with your family, you grow on your own, your perspective changes hopefully a little bit. If not, may need to maybe need to get out a little more. But yeah, so I think that'll be a really good topic to touch on. So yeah, we really wanted to talk about some of the goals that we've been setting for ourselves for because the new year is coming up, right? And so every new year it's a really good practice or exercise to go through maybe reflect on the past year and think about how you want to adjust for the new year, or what little steps you want to take towards new goals or the same goals. Just revisit those topics every year. So really nice to catch up on that. And we'll continue doing that hopefully every year so that we can keep things in perspective and on course. So that's it for us. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Outright Effect. You can find us at theoutrighteffect.com. Follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at The Outright Effect. And you can also reach out by emailing us at theoutrighteffect@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.